Oh my God, it's great.
Nice guy.
Nice guy.
Our tech team.
My cousin. Have you ever heard of cousin's cousin? Did I send you that thing?
No.
It's this TikTok I saw that's like, there's nothing less interesting to me than my cousin's cousin.
Totally. Yeah.
You
couldn't
like
care less.
You could not care less about like Annie's cousins
Totally.
that are not you.
No.
Yeah.
Why is that? Territorialism?
It's because like it's just so far away. Like it's so theoretically close, but so far.
Yeah, totally agree. That can be a euphemism for I don't give a damn.
And frankly,
I don't give a damn.
I don't give a damn. Welcome to the first episode of Hold That Thought.
On this podcast, we investigate those lingering questions stuck in a faraway corner of your mind or collecting dust. I hated that.
Lingering.
On this podcast, we investigate those lingering questions stuck in a faraway corner of your mind or currently collecting dust in your notes app.
We're your hosts, Becca Havian
and Taylor Lord. We started this podcast because we noticed ourselves, A, craving a creative outlet, and B, having these conversations with each other and with our other friends where we'd be like, wait, I wish we knew more about that. Or I wish we had the time to dig in deeper and kind of bring in new thoughts or perspectives or understanding.
Grounded in like real research,
real perspective so that we could, articulate our thoughts on a subject or change our thoughts on a subject, but based on real data and research and other people's great thinking.
I somewhat hypocritically have the pet peeve of like hearing someone seemingly spew about something that is not grounded in fact when I often am not taking the time to look something up to substantiate my opinion. So I think part of this for me at least is holding myself accountable and wanting to be a lifelong learner and get to the deeper stuff.
Yeah. And to lead with friends and family and ourselves with curiosity and intellectual humility as we go through all the ups and downs of life.
Yeah. Taylor T and I are best friends, and we've been developing this for many months now. I would say like 6 months.
It's been 6 months of behind the scenes playing around with what comes next.
Yeah. I just say that not to flex on you, but to be like, for you to know that this is really intentional on our parts. Like we want to make sure that we're delivering a product that is carefully curated and thoughtful and intentional. So we've gone through many iterations of what the container could be in terms of topics and themes, what might be interesting to our audience, and sending out practice episodes to friends and family and integrating their feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're not just throwing this out on random Friday, folks.
Oh, and it's Becky's birthday.
Oh, and it's my birthday.
It's not just any old Friday.
It's my birthday, and also it's Lily Myers' birthday. She did ask if she was going to get a shout out.
Shout out, Lil. And we're really excited to get started on this journey. We know it's going to continue to evolve, maybe the way that we're organizing our episodes or the topics that we're exploring or how we are, setting up our episodes in different series or patterns might continue to evolve. But at this point, we're just really excited to get this out into the world.
Yeah, super excited. We're birthing our baby today. I'm trying to think of what, as a listener, I would want to know about us or about what's going to transpire. I guess we have what's going to transpire, but what I would want to know about two random lasses who are launching a podcast like this. Like, I think it's relevant to know that we are both based in San Francisco, kind of newly within the last year. This is my home turf.
And this is my new home.
Your new home. And I spent, prior to this, the last 10 years on the East Coast, from which
I hail.
She hails.
And I'm from the East Coast. Spent most of my adult life up until moving to San Francisco a year ago there. Did go have a brief stint for college in the Midwest. And then, have been absolutely loving it out here in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And I think us being in the same place has really also facilitated this, passion project.
Yeah. Yeah. That actually, another piece I want to share is that part of what inspires me to take on this platform with you is that I spent many years over on TikTok and that the ability to like have continued substantive conversations over there feels more challenging than a medium like a podcast. For all the jokes I make about it, I do really enjoy having some kind of like a connection with strangers, people who are not present in my day-to-day life. And this, I believe, will also be a great avenue for that.
An inspiration for this podcast, too, is that both of us have overlapping areas of curiosity and other, pasts and experiences and current jobs that are different. So every time we come to a conversation, we're excited to experience new perspectives with each other and from what we've learned. I was a anthropology major and was pre-med. I really love the biological sciences and like to get into the, scientific research of things, but now work in marketing and strategy and very much love the humanities.
And you also have a passion for writing
and I love writing, yeah.
That I feel like you don't necessarily talk about as much, but
and this I think is like a form of the written word of that.
Certainly.
Like it's going to feed that. And you were a rhetoric major.
I was a rhetoric major, which is like the most liberal arts major you can get at a liberal arts school, but I loved it. It was just basically the study of persuasive argument. And did lots of like mediating and restorative justice work literally from middle school through college, and worked as an English teacher at a boarding school, which I'll get into at different points in the episodes, and then went on to get my master's in applied psychology. I'm not currently practicing as a clinician. I'm not a therapist in this moment. Instead, I'm working as a fact checker and copy editor for a free press outlet and produce another podcast. And both of those jobs are related to preserving democracy in a way, which feels important to me.
And now here we are. We've decided to organize our first batch of episodes into a few different mini-series, the first one of which is called Building a Home in Your Mind, focused on what's happening inside our own heads.
When we were first kind of ideating around these episodes and doing some test runs, we found that a lot of the topics that we're interested in fall into similar categories and can be put in different buckets. And so in order for it to feel digestible to you and have a common thread of sorts, we decided that this first one is going to be a mini-series around building a home in your mind. And that's maybe sounding kind of flowery, but T, can you kind of explain what the concept was behind building a home in your mind?
Yeah, we realized so many of the topics that we were interested in were about what was happening inside our own heads, making friends with all the different parts of ourselves that we find wonderful, hard, stressful. I think Beck articulated it well when she said it's kind of like exploring all the different inside out characters that we get to live with every single day, and our own curiosity with our own characters, those that we've been seeing in our friends, family, etc. Just exploring what it means to think through and make friends with yourself inside your own head.
Totally.
Today I want to talk about categorization. And what that means is we really want to cover a few things. The popularity of personality tests, those funny informal labeling games that we play with our friends where we chart ourselves and each other on different XY axes. And then also just really the rise of both formal and informal behavioral diagnoses and self-diagnoses. And ultimately, I think we're really curious about discussing what the appeals and positives, but also pitfalls are, the desire to self-label.
I kind of feel like this started for me in college. We used to play this game in Commons, which was our dining hall, on Friday nights, where someone would take a napkin from the napkin holder and place it in the center. I know I've told you this. And the napkin would be like folded like this. And so there would be a perfect middle. And we called it, what do we call it? Not continuum. We called it
Ridgeline?
Spectrum. We called it Spectrum. Ridgeline. Apogee. And someone would ask a question like, how are you feeling about going out tonight? And one end of the spectrum would be labeled like, I'm so excited. My outfit's planned. I can't wait to hook up with X. And the other end would be like, I'm staying in bed. You'll have to pull me out.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck trying to get me out there. And everyone would place their finger where they were on the spectrum. And I guess that phrase doesn't quite hold up.
No, but
Just
it
now
actually
realizing this
does. It's positioning yourself on a 2D axis.
Exactly. And another version of this that we would play was maybe coined by a friend of mine. I'm not sure. All credit goes to, whoever originated it.
I'm sure they'll come out of the woodwork.
Certainly they will. There are two axes, X and Y. So there's an X axis, which is titled Gets It. Stay with me. And Y axis, which is Can Hang. These two concepts, Gets It and Can Hang, have historically confused people. And I think
that's kind of the point.
Yeah, it's kind of the point. I mean, I think people have different definitions of what it means to get it and what it means to hang. In my view, when I answer it, I'm like, okay, I think of myself as generally someone who gets it. Like when someone goes running out of a room after someone makes a comment, I can usually like, if I've been in the conversation, I probably know why they're running out of the room. Is that a good example, you think?
That's a really interesting, because I think that's your example. That's the thing. The whole point of this access is that you often are asked it without getting what it means. So it's a gut reaction. Can I get it or can I hang? Or am I right? If you're right in the middle dot, like imagine you're in the middle of the x-axis, middle of the y-axis, you're kind of exactly in the middle of getting it and can hang. Yeah. And that's a self-interpretation.
Right. So for me, I'm like, okay, I think I almost always get it. Like I'm pretty socially aware. I'm tuned in. And then can hang. Oh, and also like maybe for jokes and stuff, like I feel like I'm catching on. Yeah. Let me just ruffle my own, fluff my own feathers.
You're fluffing.
And can hang, in my view, is like if someone at the end of the night, like we're leaving a party and someone's like, one last round somewhere. I'm most of the time can hang with that, but I also feel like there are moments where I'm just going to be the one who's like, I'm grandma and tapping out.
Yeah. And I always interpreted gets it differently. I thought of it a little bit like pop culture. Oh, deeply can't get it for me. Don't get it. Don't get it. Like,
and can hang. Have it.
No, I don't have it.
You don't have it, girl.
Don't have it. And can hang. I'm a yes girl. Yeah, like I love to say yes, so I can definitely hang. But then when you change the definition of gets it, my answer would change a little bit. But it's kind of one of those things where it's fun to just like answer from the gut and see what happens.
Totally.
And all of this is speaking to this desire and this fun concept of like putting yourself on axes and giving yourself labels and categories and all of like these casual things, which we've seen. Like, how many times in middle school did we all try to put ourselves into a Harry Potter house?
Totally.
And like get really mad when someone gave you Ravenclaw. Like
I rigged it to get Gryffindor every time.
How did you rig it? You just
I knew.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Like if you had to choose a mascot, would it be a lion? Yes.
Or a serpent?
No. Farthest thing from a serpent.
Someone protests too much.
You were commenting on my parcel tongue?
Yeah, I was commenting on your parcel. You talking about my parcel tongue? And that's just like casual examples for fun that we play with our friends. And we've seen such a rise of that, or just continued fascination with across podcasts and work environments. Like I've had to take so many personality tests for basically every single corporate job I've ever taken. You learned about so many different personality test types in your master's program.
Yeah. It's interesting because when I first encountered these kinds of categorizations in college, like something lit up in my brain. I found it so enticing to be defined and loved the idea that other people could place me accurately and know me so well as to like know my quirks in that level of detail. I remember taking the Myers-Briggs and being like, that's me. I am that to a T. And certainly there are pitfalls. We'll get into that later in the episode. But I do think even these kind of trivial forms of categorization can be helpful in like understanding yourself and feeling understood. This summer, another XY axis was introduced to us. Wherein?
Oh, and this time it wasn't just a 2-line axis. Now imagine the X goes all the way negative and the Y goes all the way quadrants. Think quadrants. Yep.
Yes. So think across, a secular cross.
Yeah.
Even parts on all sides. And the top of the Y-axis signifies mommy. The bottom of the Y-axis signifies baby. You with me? Okay.
Yep.
The X-axis now. The far left side signifies tyrant.
Yep.
Okay. The far right signifies serf.
And that's
S-E-R-F.
And I'm not sure that's exactly PG these days, but...
PC.
Sorry.
Both, maybe?
Both. But it comes from feudal medieval Europe. Someone who had to work the land.
What was the definition you found?
An unfree peasant.
Unfree.
That's pretty tough.
Of the century. Yeah. Anyway, play along. Lighten up, folks. So, basically, everyone in theory, the majority of their spirit lands on one side of each of those axes. So, for myself, I believe, and I'm curious what you think. We haven't talked about this in a while. I believe that I land on the side of baby tyrant in my core. I think in a lot of relationships, I show up as mommy because I kind of have to. And the person I was with was a mommy tyrant. And I was like, oh my God, like I can be my fullest self with someone who has the traits that would get them categorized as a mommy tyrant. I'd probably do well with the mommy serf too. And
well, I was going to say you were 2 tyrants.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't you agree?
I guess he's a tyrant. Yeah. Okay.
I think he's definitely more serf perhaps than I am. I don't know, but I guess what I liked is that I could be baby. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize how much I really want to be baby in a relationship. And so now when I think of who I'm going to be with in the end, I'm thinking I'll probably be with a mommy.
And do you feel like it was
non-binary?
Do you feel like it was having that sort of dichotomy or that axis put in front of you that you could vocalize as sum it all up in one word, I like being baby, that allowed you to see that? Like, how helpful was this categorization in helping you verbalize what you just said?
Incredibly.
Interesting.
I don't think I knew that I resented the caretaking role until I heard mommy, baby, tyrant, serf.
I mean, I think we're getting at some of the reasons why it's helpful to have these sorts of labels, self-imposed or otherwise. And I think it's why certainly people kind of made them so much a part of the mainstream. Ones that are a little bit more scientific, like personality tests for work or things like that. And I do think because there's such a rise in championing the knowing of yourself and like being able to articulate yourself, there is perhaps a rise in seeking out more official diagnoses across other realms. Do you agree or disagree?
You better agree. That's a good question. I think, are you asking like correlation or causation?
Or just like agree or disagree that there's been a rise in diagnoses?
I have been told by my professors that there has been a rise in seeking diagnoses and formal diagnoses. In fact, it's actually become an issue in terms of ADHD. It's believed that has been overdiagnosed. And whenever I hear that, I'm kind of like, I mean, we were doing such a bad job for so long. We were overdiagnosing young boys for a long time. I actually talked about this with my therapist today. Because young boys can naturally exhibit a lot of ADHD characteristics.
But it's not actually ADHD.
Sometimes they grow out of it.
It's just young boy energy.
Young boy energy, YBE.
Yeah.
And young girls were going undiagnosed for a long time. And actually, we had like an ADHD diagnosis expert come in whose whole clinic is built around diagnosing mostly young women, or actually women in their early 20s, 30s, who kind of missed that opportunity to get diagnosed at the age where they were in school, but now, you know, are finding that they match all the symptoms. I think the issue of like overdiagnosis, underdiagnosis is kind of tricky because it makes me wonder, are these attributes being properly assessed and that's why we're having more diagnoses? Or is there kind of like a phenomenon occurring where clinicians want to label?
Right. And I think if someone's coming seeking a label, how much harder is that to definitively say no to someone? Like, I just wonder if someone's seeking out a label or seeking out a diagnosis, there has to be some component of biasing the provider. Not saying that's bad one way or the other necessarily, but it's just curious a little bit.
Right. This is maybe a controversial opinion. My belief, and the one that I was kind of instilled with at my internship, was that someone coming in, and I was this client, someone coming in saying, I want a diagnosis. This is not to say that is unfounded, that is not necessary, but it should be supplementing deeper work on what would a diagnosis give you? Where does this desire come from? What do you feel is lacking currently in the absence of a diagnosis? How would that change your life? Like, I think...
Yeah, fleshing all of that out.
And the urgency behind it. Like, I experienced deep urgency when it came to learning about ADHD through TikTok and then being like, I meet all these criteria, and going to my therapist and wanting to be put on stimulants. She was like, we got to kind of slow the train down a little because you've gotten this far and you're functioning. I mean, I'm one case. Like, I'm N of one, but having just the word to describe what was going on in my mind brought me to tears in our first session. And seeing how over time, once I had kind of explored how my brain worked and then sought to mitigate my symptoms of ADHD with medication, like that was a really emotional experience for me because I was able to look back at my schooling days and see how hard I was working. I felt like I was swimming upstream, trying to get critical reading done or trying to stay focused during math class. It felt kind of like healing to my inner child to have a name for that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is beautiful. I think that is so much of what and why this is fascinating to us, because I think both of us have a real understanding of the power of a label and like self-categorization. And I think it's interesting because I think you and I are both kind of focusing on self here. Of like, it feels really shitty to have someone else categorize you without you wanting to.
Oh my God.
Versus the concept of empowering yourself with language through which to talk to about yourself and portray yourself. And
has anyone categorized you in a way that you would deem inaccurate or that felt harsh? Or
I love that question. I think I used to be really afraid of, well, there's the famous Princess Fuck.
You're in for some lore.
Becky and I are now best friends, but our original
origin story
is that we met when I went up to meet one of my best friends in college at Bates, and through them met Becky and a few other friends that weekend. We were going to a Frisbee pregame, and we were all going to play this drinking game where we stood in a circle, and you had to create a name for yourself, very apt for this episode, where you became a something fuck. So like someone who played soccer would be like football fuck.
Totally.
Football fuck.
Like I gave myself ginger fuck, which is funny because it's not
Auburn fuck.
Auburn fuck.
And I was like, what do I do? And Beck from across the room goes, you can be princess fuck. And I was like, holy shit, this girl hates me. She literally thinks I'm a stuck-up snob who has zero personality. Meanwhile, that's not what she was thinking. She was being nice.
I literally was like, here's a beautiful, perfect angel in front of me. Hello, Cinderella. Or Aurora.
And meanwhile, we were having a fight all night in my head.
Well, yeah, you like literally didn't want to sleep next to me.
I didn't want to sleep next to her in the mega bed. I said, you have to sleep between me and her. Okay. God, that was... So I think I used to be super, super sensitive that people were going to see me as shy. And I think that was playing into that.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a form of a label, like sure, personality type. Same, wasn't like willing to call myself an introvert, which now I think I'm more extrovert introvert. But
why did Princess Fuck bring out in you shy?
Same thing like Precious. Princess was precious.
Yeah.
Precious is no edge. Precious is shy. Precious is quiet.
Girl, you got edge. You got edge
Boy,
for fucking days.
Edge.
I love that about you. I love your edge.
But I think that, I mean, obviously that's a privilege. That's a very small example of that. And people go through mischaracterization throughout their entire lives.
You literally, you like held that against me. I later found out for years. And no, but I say that was kind of a joking way to phrase it. I mean, like that stuck with you.
Yeah.
And that is worth kind of taking a second to be like, wow, even a fleeting moment. I remember things that like a third grader said to me back in elementary school. We hold on to these like little moments and categorizations and labels, and then that can become so central to, it can reaffirm how we already think about ourselves, or it can introduce this idea that then, you know, can become like malignant.
Yes. And this speaks to something in psychology called the looking glass self, which I hadn't heard of before. Had you?
No.
It's the concept that our self-image is shaped by how we think others see us. So emphasis on how we think they see us. And so I think people like to take these tests because it helps us guess what others are thinking about us. And B, it then arms us with the language to start to talk about ourselves in a way that will help give us control or understanding to help influence what those people might be thinking about us.
Totally.
Which is just so many layers of like assumptions and guessing and trying to get into other people's brains and trying to know the unknowable in a way that probably is exhausting, but I think probably speaks to why people are seeking out these categorizations and labels to try to get at that, get ahead of it almost.
Yeah. I think you and many people close to me witnessed in me this real affliction with that desire for the past few years. I would say honestly up until like 2025, I was really keen on determining who I was. On my blog last fall, I made a post called Tell Me Who I Am, and the following excerpt is from that post. So when I was seated next to Lucy in our Uber back from a bar 2 nights ago, telling her of the fear that my loved ones look at my past 6 months of questioning and think I'm wishy-washy, half-hearted, dodgy, I trusted her genuine look of surprise. And when she held my hand and locked a pair of earnest, sympathetic eyes on mine, going on to illuminate how profoundly my self-concept diverges from the way others see me, I listened and tried to believe. And that, to me, felt like a moment of clarity, of realizing, one, my self-concept seems to be off. And two, why am I so adamant about getting to the bottom of what I am, who I am, why I am?
Who you are.
Who I am. But like, you seem less afflicted in that way.
Well, it's interesting you say that because when you're talking back about, first of all, thank you for sharing that. Beautiful writing.
More on A Third Thin Place.
Read more on A Third Thin Place. When you were talking about like the tyrant versus baby, I was noticing how when I was playing that game and thinking about it with Luis and playing that game with you, I so in all of these things always want to say, I'm on the line. I'm sometimes baby, sometimes tyrant. Like
so healthy.
Yeah, I guess that is healthy.
And that's how I read it.
Yeah.
Because I want to be more like laid back about the labels. But you don't view that as healthy, as your instinct?
No, it's I view it both as healthy in certain situations and also perhaps it is a healthy manifestation of something that perhaps is a little more insecure.
Wow.
Of being really afraid of being put into a box because I for so long didn't want to be misunderstood because I thought that would make people wouldn't give me a second chance.
Yeah.
And I think that's coming from someone who was more shy and who found it harder to be gregarious or make friends off the bat, which meant that I was really worried that if like you characterized me or labeled me as XYZ to start, I would never get the chance to show you who I really was. I think that's probably the origin. But now it's healthy.
It's interesting. I feel like, I mean, we had some conversation a while back about how we were recognizing that you link up with a lot of gregarious people because you like to be able, I remember you said you like to be able to like take a back seat a little bit and feel like they're in control and you can kind of like
totally
enjoy the fun, but not have to be the one putting it forward. Yes. And that's why when you hang out with people with whom you are less close or who are less likely to be the like tyrant in that situation, it feels draining to you.
Totally. Yeah, that's very accurate.
One psychological model I learned about in grad school is called the Big Five Inventory. TBFI, or Ocean is actually what the criteria end up making.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. It measures personality along 5 broad dimensions. So there's openness, which can be defined as like curiosity, creativity, conscientiousness, which is like organization, reliability, extroversion, which is sociability and energy, agreeableness, which is kindness and cooperativeness, and neuroticism, which is defined as like emotional stability and anxiety. And I first learned of the Big Five personality traits when I was reading a book called The Defining Decade, which my ex-boyfriend actually gave to me during a different breakup.
What? He gave it to you in the breakup?
Yeah. He gave it to me when I was going through my breakup with we got breakfast.
Sweet.
It was really sweet. Did he give it to me? I'm making that up. He recommended it to me.
Okay.
He was like, I think this is what you need in this moment. I was 24 and it basically is a book talking all about like how to set yourself up to be content in your 30s and not find yourself with a ton of regrets and dealing with issues that could have been and should have been maybe confronted in your 20s. I liked the book a lot. There were certain parts that I didn't enjoy as much, but one of the best parts was going through the Big Five inventory, and they talk about partner selection. And basically the author says, if you find that you score high on a lot of criteria where your partner scores low, this will be a challenging relationship. I'm not saying you can't be together, that it will never work, but it will be challenging because these are like fundamental parts of your being. And you want variability. You want to complement each other in certain areas, but you don't want to be so diametrically opposed that there isn't really any middle ground.
Is it a lack of understanding of like how this person operates?
Yeah, maybe that's where it comes from. I don't quite remember. I do remember though, annotating the margins. I just loaned it to someone and looked at this again. I annotated it all with my ex in mind, unfortunately. Like my whole reading of it was like, okay, so they score X on openness. I score X, but like, I guess I'm not that close, whatever. Like, you know, I was like trying
using them as the bellwether.
Yes. Bellwether is such a good term. Personally, I feel like I'm pretty high on openness, pretty high on conscientiousness, mostly high on extroversion, mostly high on agreeableness, and pretty high on neuroticism. And I really get along with people who are similar in those ways. Like, I really like people who are conscientious. I don't want to be the only conscientious one. I really like people who are open, because being with someone who's closed feels like heavy to me.
Yeah.
What does this bring up in you?
Well, the thing I was just thinking about when you were reading those off is how all of like those kind of spectrums of ocean, I have such a preconceived idea of which one I'd want to be on. I want to be curious. I'd like to be reliable. I want to be energetic. Like to think of myself as kind. I want to be emotionally stable, but I'm not. But like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, this is where I think some of the personality tests can get tricky. And maybe correct me if I'm misunderstanding some of the other ends of the scale of this. But like, I wish that the other scales were defined with a little bit more nuance about how the other end of the spectrum was. And I really like the Big Five, because I think it does introduce the concept of a spectrum in a way that's really healthy to the conversation we were just having of like, nothing is fixed and we should be okay with that. But I do feel like they are still all made kind of with this a potential to create a binary of what you want and what is good on the spectrum versus not.
Right. I guess. I think ascribing morality or like positive, negative to it, to me, is, I'm not preoccupied by that.
Interesting.
I mean, I was in relation to how I would match up against my ex at the time, but I don't mind being neurotic.
Yeah.
And like, I guess I understand. Actually, I'm taking this back, because I think fortunately I score high on a lot of the components you would want to score high on. So I guess this is, I'm checking my privilege. I'm happy that I'm open. I'm happy I'm agreeable. I'm happy I'm extroverted. I'm happy I'm conscientious. And I'm happy I'm neurotic. Neuroticism seems to be like one of the main ones that you wouldn't want. But the others seem pretty positive.
That's why I'm like, what's the other end of the spectrum? You know, is it really just categorized as that?
Yeah, because it's a continuum. You either score low on neuroticism or high. Low, medium, high.
There's not another end of that.
I mean, it's low neuroticism. It's like the same metric.
Got it.
But you can create, like, there are antonyms. The opposite of neuroticism would be like
secure and calm.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, there's like agreeableness. You obviously want to be compassionate and cooperative and not be critical and detached.
This feels a little tangential to me, because I'm like, you are what you are.
Right.
Like, yes, there can be desires, but at the end of the day, like, we're working with facts. They're soft facts, but like, it's helpful to know I shouldn't be seeking out partners who are low on neuroticism.
Yeah.
Unless I want that.
Okay.
Unless that's the like one thing out of place. I mostly want to seek partners
who are similar.
With similar. And I think like if we had someone in front of us who was low on extroversion, low on agreeableness, and it's a whole nother thing to be talking about like whether they were content with those qualifiers, but it is helpful objectively, I think, to them to understand that they are most compatible with someone with similar traits.
And do you feel like it's easy enough upon meeting someone to figure out these traits just from feeling? Or like when you meet someone, there's no way of actually getting into this unless you're like, did you see the Amy Poehler episode where she jumps right in? Where she literally goes, I'm an ENFJ. Type 5 wing 7.
Oh, yes.
It's so funny. Unless we walk through our world like that.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, if I'm on a dating app and I see someone says something that screams lack of conscientiousness or lack of openness, I'm like, next. Because those things matter to me.
But give me an example.
Like someone who, honestly, this gets socio-political. Like if someone works for Elon Musk at Tesla and displays no conscientiousness around how that might be perceived and what kind of comes with that association and doesn't value the way in which others might perceive that, that's not my person. And that is not how a lot of other people would
Yeah,
feel.
that's fair. That's a great point.
Thank you.
Drop the mic.
In the research, I also found a theory called optimal distinctiveness theory, which basically talks about the balance between wanting to be part of a group as a human and also wanting to be unique and distinct from others. And that gets at everything we're talking about. We want to feel this sense of belonging. We want to have a home in our community, and we also do want to be one of a kind.
Yeah.
A lot of us do.
Yeah.
There's a quote that I think about all the time from a podcast called Poog. One of the hosts, Kate Berlant, I think she was talking about getting back on a yoga practice, or like they talk a lot about habits, and they fall off habits and then get back on them, and each week they kind of like update us and about their newest fad or what they're interested in. And Kate, I think, is talking about like doing yoga every day and says like, this is me now. And they talk about that phenomenon of being like, stamp, this is my identity, this is my shtick. And they make light of it in a delicious way.
Yeah.
I love that because I too am so susceptible to that kind of thinking. You and I talked recently about how like I wanted to do an episode on obsessions, and you were so gently like, oh, Becky, I think you have more of those than I do. I was like, oh my God.
No, but that's something that table this conversation, but I wish I had more obsessions. So
interesting. I am so prone to being like, this is me now. Like I'm announcing, especially like, I mean, at some point I will talk about this more in depth to give you the long short of it. I have a presence on TikTok, and last December I went to a club in Portland, Oregon, and approached this girl, and the first thing out of her mouth was, "Are you autistic?" And I said, "Oh my God, I have thought that I could be on the spectrum for a long time," and had been talking about it with my therapist for like a year or two, and with friends who had brought the possibility to me. And she goes, "I have autism and I think you do too." And I was kind of reeling after that experience, and ended up basically oversharing online, which didn't have any negative consequences at the time. It was actually pretty amazing. Like everyone who commented on the video was so affirming and kind and saying helpful, supportive things. But I woke up the next morning being like, why did I do that? Like, why did I disclose this sensitive part of my identity or potential part of my identity? It felt like it trivialized the process of diagnosis, while also like feeling too intense about one person's opinion. I mean, it was like in the context of more conversations with family and friends that I had. But I think this is such a meme these days of people, honestly, probably especially white girls, being like, this is my marginalized identity that I'm choosing.
Which, really quickly, just to say, I saw yesterday that American Girl doll made an autism doll.
No way. Molly wasn't already autistic.
No, but her joints can help with stimming.
Wait, joints?
Yeah, she has like really active joints. So
oh my God. They gave her like
hyperextension.
Hyperextension.
That's what I read.
Is insane. Honestly, cool.
Cool. Really
it's cool.
Really cool.
Sorry to pass judgment. Yeah, it's a total meme these days. And I felt so icky playing any part in furthering that. Not to say that my experience and that the conversations I had been having with a qualified professional, etc., like people in my life coming to me, not to say that those were unwarranted or unfounded or not legit, but, you know, I was trivializing the experience of a formal diagnosis. If I were someone with diagnosed autism, especially someone who was, I guess, I don't know if you would say passing, but like, I do think it's obviously a very different thing to have autism and to have that be like an obvious trait of yours that implicates your life in a day-to-day way, as opposed to just having it be, honestly, a privilege of like self-examination and understanding. And I felt icky and like skin crawly and embarrassed having claimed that identity so soon after receiving what I thought was like a stamp of approval. And in the moment, I was like, oh God, I know that this is one of those moments that I'm going to regret later and regret already.
Thank you for sharing all that, first of all.
Love you.
Love you. And I think your use of the word meme is really interesting there, because I think it gets to this fine balance between self-exploration for yourself versus self-exploration and labeling for in a way to present yourself in a palatable or self-serving way to others.
Totally.
And the use of the word meme there makes it so public and like it's serving something for others versus yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I was so desperate to have a label for my particular flavor of difference in the world, and was totally willing to just like take that and run with it. And that was a moment when I found categorization and like the urge to label myself as a hindrance, when it had mostly in the past been a positive thing for me.
Yeah. Thank you. Do you feel like that was partly, it was coming from a long line of wanting to be able to self-identify or put labels? And do you feel like it helped you think about yourself in relation to others better?
You know, it actually helped me relate to myself better, because what came from that, I mean, the next morning I was literally weeping on the ground in my parents' kitchen, trying to understand where that urge came from to publicize this identifier or to like decide I'm part of this group.
Yeah.
But then also people in my life asked helpful questions. My therapist and friends, yourself included, kind of helped me interrogate why that felt important to me. The question that I referred to earlier, what would a diagnosis do for you, was posed to me by my therapist.
Yeah.
And because I came into the session being like, I need to figure this out. I need to get to the bottom of it. I need to take the tests. And she was like, what would that change?
Yeah.
And like, is that something we can touch without
the diagnosis?
Because what would happen if you didn't get the diagnosis?
Ooh,
what would that bring up?
Yeah.
Where would you go in your head? What conclusions would you draw about yourself if you didn't fall into this group? And I think slowing that down, slowing my urgency down, the like 5-alarm fire feeling I had was so helpful. And I actually, it fostered in me a greater acceptance of the unknown and the gray and the messy middle. I mean, since then, I have not sought a formal diagnosis. I actually don't know that I will, because something I'm really working on is confidence and like acceptance of who I am and my quirks. And I don't feel that I need a label in order to understand and come to terms with myself.
Yeah. Or to make yourself make sense to other people.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like desperate for a shorthand.
Yep.
To be like, I remember saying to someone like, what this would give me is something to point to when you have an interaction with me that feels off. Like I would sometimes leave social interactions being like, oh, they definitely like felt like I was weird in that, or that I spoke in a weird way, or like whatever. And my mom, I said this to my mom and she goes, Beck, I have never been embarrassed by you. I have never introduced you to a friend, brought you to a family event. Like never have I left being like, my daughter put her foot in her mouth. And that is not to say that like people who put their foot in their mouths are lesser than. Like, in fact, I'm okay now with being someone who does that occasionally, because everyone does. But that was just a helpful catalyst, hitting honestly what felt like rock bottom in terms of like internet vulnerability presence, to be like, wow, I need to reassess my desire to label and categorize myself.
Yeah.
Sorry, I talked for so long.
No, I'm so glad you did that. I think you did such a good job.
Thank you. As you said at the beginning of the episode, this topic has been on our minds and like in our dialogue for a while.
Yeah.
What did doing the research for this episode and also like just talking now, how has that landed for you? Where are you now?
I think for me, it really helped me to see that this conversation is so in a poetic way to exactly, I think, where I'm going to end up my key takeaways on this. It's the topic itself is so nuanced. And I think the biggest thing that I like is I've heard this concept called strong opinions loosely held. Like the concept of like, you're going to have your opinions and that's great to have your strong opinions and voice them, but don't be afraid to change your mind. Mm-hmm. I kind of think I would put that towards labels. Strong labels, but loosely held. Yeah. And strong labels as they suit you. Strong self-labels as they suit you, loosely held.
Yeah.
Because which becomes rather less like a tagline, but I do think that there's a lot of power in them, like the ability to advocate for yourself. Okay, we want to talk about, okay, I have ADHD. I need to advocate for what I need with my school. These are my love languages, and therefore I have the language suddenly to talk to you about what I need from you as my partner. This is how I perceive myself. These are my kind of ways in which I like to work according to this personality test. Oh, that's helpful. I don't think I would have seen it that way, but maybe I should try to implement that. And let me just see if that feels good in my way of working with a colleague who maybe doesn't. So I think you kind of speak on this as well, the concept of like holding convictions with a gentle grasp and how revolutionary that can be in terms of like being able to move through life unafraid of change, but also unafraid of the labels. Like I think if they serve in a really wonderful way for that advocating for helping to have insights into yourself in relation to others and insights into yourself.
Right. To your point, I love the change I've seen in myself over the past year in terms of holding my convictions with a loose grasp, like you said. And I love that I have allowed myself to go from someone who was desperately in need of definition and defining to someone who is embracing of dynamicism and nuance. And I'm in a phase of life now where I'm really trying to gently observe myself.
I love that.
Without overanalyzing.
Love.
And I used to think self-analysis was a virtue. I'm trying to remain flexible. I'm trying to have a growth mindset. And there's a lot less suffering, I think, that comes with life when you are willing to kind of give over to what is and believe that it's both comforting to me and uncomfortable to acknowledge the fact of life, which is that our identities in some ways are stable and in other ways are constantly vacillating and change on various continuums. And it's a much easier life to embrace that fact than to resist it.
Yeah. I love that. To close out, I want to talk about how my dad a few weeks ago officiated a wedding that I went to. And none of us had seen what he was going to talk about. No one had any idea of how he was going to do it. And he, at the end, brought up this Mary Oliver quote from a essay that she wrote after her lifelong partner, M, died. And it was a direction in a wedding ceremony I've never seen done before. And it was obviously my dad's first time officiating a wedding. But it was so beautifully done. And it spoke about the fact that even as much as you think you know someone, even as much as you want to know someone, even as you spend all your life with them, loving them, you can never truly, really 100% know them. The quote from the essay is by Mary Oliver is from this book she wrote called Our World. Though you have known someone for more than 40 years, though you have worked with them and lived with them, you do not know everything. I do not know everything, but a few things which I will tell. Had will and wit and probably too much empathy for others. She was quick in speak and she did not suffer fools. When you know her, she was unconditionally kind. But also, as a friend said at her memorial service, you had to be brave to get to know her. And my dad read this out, and he also read another poem by Mary Oliver called The Whistle, in which she describes this moment in her house with when Em was still alive, where suddenly she heard Em whistling down the hall, and she was like, "What? You know how to whistle? I've been with you 25 years. I didn't know you could whistle." And she's like, "Yeah, I love whistling." And he said, even as we can never really know someone, you can love someone wholeheartedly, and love is better than knowing. And it was such a beautiful concept. And I think to what you're saying, we can use as many labels or categories or self-diagnoses or formal diagnoses as we want, but it will always be a bit of a mystery. And so we have to love others and love ourselves unconditionally through that.
Amen, sister.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
How are you feeling after that episode?
I feel good. it's nice to be able to examine or like digest some of these, I don't know, concepts that float around like we talk about in our intro. I think the mind can be such an isolating place. And so to digest this with a friend is so lovely and comforting. And it's also just like interesting to hear about your own self-concept and like how we differ and how we are similar. And I love getting inside someone else's brain.
Me too. And that's kind of what we're trying to do here.
Right. Indeed.
Like to get inside your brain. Okay, well, I personally am very hungry now.
Me too. You haven't eaten?
No.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Can I mooch off of your groceries?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Love you.
Love you. Thank you, Phoebe Fry, for this episode's music.
And thank you, Emily Kiernan, for the beautiful cover art.
If you like this episode, please like, share, and leave a comment. And we'll see you next week.